A sudden draft from a window that was supposed to have been closed. A chill at the back of the neck. Groans, creaks, and bumps in the night. Man has always been frightened by the dark, troubled by noises just beyond the reach of lights, occurrences just beyond the reach of understanding.
A very dark, hooded, evil presence came from the hall. I didn't even have to see her distinctly. I just knew this is trouble, you know, and I've got to do something about it.
A ghostly apparition in the dark of night. What was it? And why did it come? An astonishing event occurred on a still summer night in a Maine fishing village. An event witnessed by the latest occupants of a house with a long history. An event which prompts tonight's search.
This series presents information based in part on theory and conjecture. The producer's purpose is to suggest some possible explanations, but not necessarily the only ones, to the mysteries we will examine.
There are stories of ghosts and of hauntings to suit every taste, from the playful to the macabre. But those who have studied ghosts claim to have discerned patterns in their behavior, what might be set down as rules of the haunt. For example, a ghost might be thought of as the spirit of someone who died in emotional turmoil. Further, it seems the spirit remains close to the place associated with the turmoil. Finally, it appears that the ghost wanders in its restless limbo until relieved of whatever its burden is. The best way to learn more about ghosts is to consult a ghost hunter. Hans Holzer understands the rules of ghostly behavior perhaps better than anyone else. It is his business to investigate hauntings. Holzer is a doctor of parapsychology and has written dozens of books on ghosts.
Over the years, I've developed some pretty foolproof methods to explore the phenomena scientifically. I've used highly sensitive cameras and even more sensitive people, psychics, to get information which will lead to the discovery of a ghost. But in all my years of ghost hunting, I have never been afraid. After all, a ghost is only a fellow human being in trouble.
Holzer may not be frightened by ghosts, but most of the people who call on him for help are. Perhaps this is because it is all so strange, because people instinctively fear what they do not understand.
Ghosts are the surviving emotional memories of people who've died tragically and cannot leave the spot of their passing. They keep reliving their final moments over and over again, like a phonograph needle stuck in the final groove. You see, ghosts are not aware that they're dead.
Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman came to life in the home and the work of Washington Irving. Some who care for the author's retreat think Irving may still be around himself. Holzer was asked to find out.
It looked the part of a haunted house, all right. But the more I looked for hard evidence of a ghost, the more doubtful I became.
Holzer had to pin down what had actually occurred in the old house.
Well, I thought it was rather unusual one day. Our former librarian was reading Irving's will in the basement, and all the interpreters were down there, and we suddenly heard a crash upstairs. We ran up. It sounded like someone had fallen down the steps. And when we got upstairs, there was an iron sitting in the middle of the laundry, fallen from the table.
Ghosts have been known to do such things, but Holzer feels there must be a suitable motive. He talked to Joseph Butler, curator of the Irving Museum and Library.
During your years here, have you ever heard of any legends alleging that ghosts or uncanny happenings abound here?
Well, of course, Irving himself said that when he died, he was sure that he would return to haunt Sunnyside as a friendly ghost.
Irving's whimsical warning that he might return as a playful ghost didn't square with Holz's experience, his knowledge of ghost behavior.
The ghost at Washington Irving's cottage had no substance after all. But in the little fishing village of Port Clyde, I found a different kind of story.
Port Clyde is a fishing village wedged in a rocky enclave of the Maine coast. Indians fished these waters long before the Europeans came. Then, for a time, the Yankee whalers held sway here. They were strong, practical men. Men steeled for long voyages in search of whale. They were replaced in time by fleets of cod fishermen, the same practical Yankee breed. Now it's lobster that lures the men of Port Clyde, but little else has changed. Making a living from the sea still demands courage and skill, and there's little time for frivolous pursuits and wild imaginings. Carl Schwab has fished Port Clyde's waters for years, a spiritual descendant of the Yankee whalers. He and his family once lived in a house that some in Port Clyde say is haunted. But had Schwab ever seen or heard anything unusual at the old house?
Not unusual, not for winds here in the wintertime. But I don't know much history of the house, other than what this has come out.
So you'd be perfectly happy to... This is the ghost Carl Schwab was talking about. I first heard about it from brother and sister, Carol Schulte and Bob Olivieri.
Carol and Bob had spent lazy summers with their parents in the Port Clyde house Carl Schwab once lived in. It was a fine retreat for the young people. A wonderful old house full of nooks and crannies and creaking wood. It was weather-worn, but comfortable. There was a night in the summer of 1972, however, which was not comfortable at all. It was the night Bob Olivieri became aware of a presence in his bedroom.
One night, I was awakened by a noise in the hallway, like a pacing of footsteps. I had no idea what it was. I got up, and the sound stopped. And as soon as I got back in bed, I heard the noise again, these footsteps. I got up again, I came to the same spot, and it stopped. And so then I checked my parents' room, and they were sound asleep. I thought maybe it was my 3-year-old nephew. I went down the hallway, and I checked in his room, and he was sound asleep in a crib, and my sister was sound asleep. So then I came back in bed again. And while I was in bed, I got in bed, I heard the footsteps again. And they were coming up the hall, and they stopped. It seemed like it was at the edge of the hallway. And a few minutes later, I could feel something on my sheets, like a pressing, like someone pressing down. And there was nothing there, but I could see the sheets being indented. And it kept on coming up my body till finally at the end, something pulled my hair. And I was just scared for the rest of the night. I couldn't get to sleep.